Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya. I was taking notes.
Surprise. Welcome to the Coaches Cup. I'm Sonya Green from
And I'm
SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
and I'm Judith Fender. I'm one of the amazing coaches with the NoBS weight loss program.
And today we are going to break down counterproductive behavior and how we will often find ourselves in doing things, following patterns that we've been following for years that aren't working for us, and how to get to the basic, I guess, the kind of the root of those
Sonya, how do we
issues.
get to the root of the issue? Wait a minute. You're making it sound easy.
I know it is, right? Yeah. And telling you is easy, which we'll do over the next few minutes. But full disclosure, this is something that I am really digging into and practicing right now, because I think, it's one of those things. If you're listening to us, then we can assume that you care about thought work, that you've been doing your own thought work. Otherwise, why do you listen to us? Just our witty banter, probably, right? But seriously, this is one of those things in thought work areas that's a deeper level concept, I think.
For sure. You and I were talking before we were pre-gaming.
Yeah.
And I was talking about some books I wanted to reference. And I was really thinking if you don't understand thought work, if you don't know that thoughts cause feelings, cause actions, then I would spend some time working there before you bust open any of these books and try digging a little deeper. Just keep processing along.
Yeah.
And then digging in deeper, because you need to have awareness of your patterns, of your thinking, to understand the behaviors you're doing.
Yeah.
Period.
And this really requires a level of, you need that, I think, that to be aware of your thinking, because getting into this kind of work requires being able to really drop into your body and listen to what your body is telling you.
You're going to need to get off autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
We all have that wonderfully powerful habit brain that has gotten us where we are. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But next level shit, ladies, gentlemen.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get off autopilot and be willing to know that you're not broken. You just have patterns, period.
Yes. And when I was doing some reading for this episode, one of the things that kept coming up, no matter who you read, no matter who you listen to, everybody talks about these patterns are usually established at some point way back in our childhood.
Yeah.
For some reason, they worked for us then, to keep us safe, we felt like, or for whatever reason, they worked for us in our childhood. And so we keep going back to these patterns, even though they no longer serve us.
Correct.
So, this is some deeper level listening, I think, or work, not listening, but this is some deeper level work, and listening to your body is part of that.
And it is thought work, right? I mean, the bottom line is if you're tapping into that 5% of your conscious brain, right? If the habit brain is 95%, then, and you're paying attention to your patterns, then you're paying attention to your thinking, you are tapping into that 5%.
Yeah.
To make changes. And right off the bat, I'm not sure who it was I was listening to, but when they said that, perfectionism is self-sabotage, I was like, what? Stop. It really is. Like, holy shit. Procrastination, self-sabotage, because it's not attainable. It's not doable.
Yeah.
It's an illusion. It's not real. But your brain thinking it is.
Yes, our habit brain goes to that. So perfectionism is one of the big keys. If you are a perfectionist,
Yep.
then you are swimming in the lake, maybe the sea of counterproductive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
You're just deep in it.
For sure. This
But
makes me go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to tell, I may not even get the story out right, but it's something about a frog. If you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a frog in water and you slowly turn the water up, it
Mm-hmm.
never gets out of the water. And that makes me think of, what having thought work as you progress through and try to figure this out.
Oh, I love that.
You've got to be able to, see, because if you are swimming in it, was your swimming story that made my brain go there. But if
I
you're
love that.
swimming in your perfectionism and believing it's true, because you and I both have coached many clients
Oh, yeah.
on perfectionism and how, it bottom line doesn't serve you.
No.
It's self-sabotage.
No. And the beauty of thought work, to continue your analogy, which I love, is now, I've been doing thought work for a couple of years anyway. And I will jump into the hot water and go, "Whoa, can you believe I just thought that? I cannot believe that I just had that thought." And not only that, I will say, of course I had that thought. I'll move on. Once I get out of the hot water, I'll have some compassion for myself. Of
That's
course I had that thought. That's the thought I always go to when I'm stressed out or tired or afraid of a change that's coming.
right.
But perfectionism, yeah, is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Because for some reason, there's some old programming from our childhood where it seemed like that was working for us.
Well, our little brains are just perfect little computers, perfect little, I don't even know the word,
So
just
efficient.
solution solvers, solution
Yes.
creators.
Yes.
And it just made connections, wired together, fired together.
Mm-hmm.
And if it worked once, it's going to try and make it work again.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's understanding, number one, a counterproductive behavior is something that you're still trying to use, even though it doesn't serve you anymore.
And you may be thinking like someone who is engaging in counterproductive behavior would probably be thinking, I'm broken.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, they have awareness that they're doing it, but can't seem to stop,
Mm-hmm.
but continue to beat themselves up and
Yeah.
blame, I'm broken.
Yeah. And, Martha Beck talks a lot about these behaviors and listening to your body. And she says, actually, several different people say this, but they say it in slightly different ways. But it all comes down to we will make ourselves sick in sometimes as a way because our body uses suffering to turn our brains on.
Interesting. Okay. So I had heard on that, running on this, that so the brain works for reward and to prevent pain.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying then is it will turn to the suffering.
Yes, many times we will be suffering. Now, I didn't say in pain because being in pain and
Right.
being in suffering are two different things, right?
But the brain would interpret that suffering as pain, right? Mental pain.
Mental pain, right, right. But sometimes we will cause ourselves physical pain. We will make ourselves sick.
Mm-hmm.
So, overeating.
Mm-hmm.
How many women, especially if you talk about bingers,
Uh-huh.
will eat to the point of sickness.
Mm-hmm.
What without stopping to listen for what is causing that? What are they really crying out for?
Right.
Chronic pain.
And it's dysregulation and not the inability to feel feelings.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, chronic pain, that's what Martha Beck talks a lot about, the chronic pain, which she had suffered for years. But many times that comes from not listening.
Right.
We're not being in integrity with our true values, our true selves.
Mhm.
And we are like, maybe it's a job. I think I have to do this. I have to, I don't know, whatever it is you're going for, and you're going for it for purposes that aren't true for you. So
Mm,
maybe your parents told you you had to be a doctor.
mm,
And now, you went to school, you became a doctor, and you're working all these hours, and you're constantly mentally fatigued. You have chronic pain, and you realize your true self doesn't want to be a doctor at all. You want to be an artist. I don't know,
mhm.
you know, but it comes from the suffering that you're in.
The mental suffering to
Yeah,
match, creating physical presence that matches the mental suffering. I don't
yes,
want to
to
use the
get your attention.
word. Mhm,
Yeah. And
mhm,
Gay Hendricks talks about that too. He talks about making yourself, he talks about people who get in car accidents.
oh shit.
Yeah. Or they fall and break their arm. Um, and this isn't every time. Obviously there are car accidents that are not subconsciously created, but he talks about working with clients who have something that they're just really dreading, something that they don't want to have to deal with, and uh, and suddenly, they somehow incapacitate themselves to avoid that.
Well, it's interesting because one of as you're saying that, I think about, you read often like people who are depressed, you
Mhm.
will see on the list of things like having more accidents,
Yeah.
like because, and I always equated it to just, well, it's the same, it's so checked out, so
Exactly.
disconnected from the mind and body
Yes,
that creating pain and sense would connect the body back to the brain, because at least then they would be in the same page. Pain,
exactly. And so,
painful page.
yeah, a lot of these things happen because we aren't paying attention. We're checked out.
Checked out. Autopilot.
Yeah, because we think we can't deal with it. I mean, how many clients have you coached who they think they can't deal with their pain? They think they can't deal with their feelings.
Well, are just so wrapped up in life. I mean, we're going to say it, we're in a fast-paced world right now.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
mama's doing all the things, bringing home the bacon, frying it up in a pan type
Right.
mentality. But that having those moments to be connected with yourself, just
Mhm.
checking in and what you're thinking and what you're feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and so many, like, just on the journey to figure that out, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be this, I need to take half an hour to stop and meditate. It doesn't
No, no,
it
no.
doesn't have to be that at all. So if you're listening to us and you're thinking, I it is a fast-paced world and I don't have time to do one more thing. How do you do that during the day, Judith? How do you check in with yourself?
Oh, I just check in. It takes 5 seconds.
Mhm.
Just be present with myself in the moment. It's
Mhm.
commonly called like a form of grounding, right? I like to say, where are my feet? I notice my brain is thinking ahead. Oh, come back. Come be with your feet,
Mhm.
Judith.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Get things done.
Yeah. I am also listening to a book. Um, hmm, I wasn't prepared to bring this up, so I can't. But it's on self compassion.
Mm.
I want to say her last name is Neff.
Oh, I have her book too. I can't think of the name.
Kristen Neff. Does that
Yes,
sound
Kristen
right?
Neff. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, on self compassion, and it is fantastic. That's I'm reading three different things right now, so they all kind of go together. But one of the things that I have started doing, she has these I forget what she calls them, but moments that I just check in, and I even do this in the car, and I will physically touch myself. I'll put my hand on my chest and say, I am safe.
Yep.
I am at peace. And I go through several of these things. I don't remember the other one right now. Like I said, I wasn't prepared to talk about
It's
this
kind
one.
of that like right now. It's like showing the brain like everything's
Yeah.
okay.
We are in the moment,
Get all
and yeah, just checking in. And that, especially if you feel your body tensing up, or you feel that moment. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly get this dread that washes over you, kind of like when you were a kid and you did something wrong
oh
and
yeah.
you knew, and you don't really know why it's there, but there's something in congruence with your body and mind usually. It's some of that old programming. You feel like you're going to get in trouble and you're not exactly sure why. And, even in those moments when whatever the feeling is, I will just take a moment and ground myself that way.
Yeah.
I am safe. I am at peace. And, your brain listens to that and your body responds.
Right. And just coming back to the breath when you're doing this, because
Yes.
breath is always going to be with you for the rest of your life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hello. When the breath is gone, so are you. But as long
Yeah.
as you're breathing, you're fine.
And you can control that. You can count it. I'll do some deep breaths too.
There's so much. There's circular breathing. There's four square breathing. There's, I don't know, 4, 2, 2, 4.
Yeah,
There's
4, 7, 8 is the one that I usually do.
okay.
And but there, like you said, there's all kinds.
Yeah. You find what works for you.
Yes.
But it starts, it starts just by being curious,
Mhm.
right? Just try something.
Yeah. Yeah. To get you out of that. So perfectionism is one of those counterproductive behaviors. Procrastination is another
Oh boy.
counterproductive behavior.
Yeah, boy.
What do you want to say about
Yeah, boy.
procrastination?
Wow. Wow. I don't know. I might be in that boiling water. I don't know. It is probably, I remember being a perfectionist, especially in college.
Mhm.
And I every now and then will have perfectionistic tendencies. And I don't even know what I say to myself anymore. I just don't even go there. I just accept what is, just practicing accepting what is. But procrastination, again, it's just going to be my brain making up a big old story that's not helpful.
Yes.
Like, because once I get going, I'm fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, procrastination was one. If my mother is listening this week, she's probably going, "Well, that's Sonya." Because in college, I was I used to say I was the procrastination queen, and I have gotten so far away from labeling myself that way. It doesn't even feel right to say it anymore. But I would put off, like, I would say, well, writing a paper, I would say my thoughts have to simmer. And there is some of that has to happen. I do have to have time to think. But guess what? I would start a paper, like I knew exactly how long it took me to write a specific page length. And I would turn it out. And I mean, there were times when I printed it out and ran it to class just in time.
Yeah. I would tell myself, well, I work better under pressure, that crunch time, because if I had to
Oh my goodness.
write a paper, what the hell?
We
That's a
should
lot.
do we should do a whole episode on that lie that we tell ourselves. I work better under pressure.
Yep. Oh, I might even still buy into that one
Absolutely.
because it
Absolutely.
feels productive. I knock
Yep.
stuff out. Woo! I feel
Mhm.
good.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That one's like, I'm a great multitasker. Those two, they go together, yeah. Anyway,
Oh.
so procrastination is a counterproductive behavior,
Mhm,
and it's typically because you don't want to do something.
mhm, mhm. It's just your brain telling you a story.
I was coaching one of my clients a few weeks ago, and she was talking about this procrastination, and and overwhelm. It started with overwhelm. And I was like, well, what do you not want to do? Because she was so overwhelmed. And she's like, I've just got so many things to do. I said, no, 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 wait. What are you not doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is that thing that's sitting out there that you are not doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
that you're procrastinating on? And she goes, I've got to clean the cat box.
Seriously?
And seriously, that's what it was.
She
And
didn't want to do it.
uh-uh. And she had built up this, I mean, and it was a story. She had the whole as we do, because we are so good at that. And after we had a good laugh at it, I was like, you know what? I need to clean my cat box too. We're gonna get off this call and we're both gonna go do it.
Do it. Get it done.
And we're gonna move past that. But usually there's one thing clogging up our pipeline with procrastination. There's one thing we just don't want to do.
Yeah, usually for me, it's thinking. Not procrastinating. It's going to require some focus time, some sitting down. And I just have all these stories. I'm like, oh God, I got ADHD. I can't sit here. This is
And you know what? That works with the perfectionism, because your mind tells your,
not good enough.
yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So if I do it at the last minute, then I have an excuse for it not being good enough. I had to do this at the last minute. It's not great.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How many
Well, I make a C on it. At least I got it done.
That's right.
I'll take a
I
C.
couldn't do any better. I didn't have time.
But I think what we really need to highlight, even as we are exchanging our banter over this, is there are patterns. And as you, the listener, hear us talk, you will identify yourself and note you have patterns, just like Sonya and I, like the procrastinator has patterns very similar. The overwhelm, all of these create patterns for you. Finding your patterns will help you eliminate or work through self-sabotage.
And that is where coaching can be so useful, because, we get in overwhelm or we get in perfectionism and we don't even see what the issue is. But because we all follow the same patterns, I can say, what are you not doing?
Right.
What is that thing that's holding you back?
Yeah.
And you can go, oh, I need to clean the cat box.
Truth right there. Because we live it. And and as a coach, like we are just it's so easy to hear what someone else is going through. Like it's easy because we're trained for that, and we do our self-coaching, and
and we're too busy suffering. We are too busy, like
in the hot water.
Yeah.
In the hot water.
Yeah. Yeah. That brought up another thought. I'll have to get that back in just a minute. But so if you are dealing with counterproductive behaviors, and we brought up perfectionism and procrastination as those, but there are so many counterproductive behaviors. Those are kind of broad categories. There are some smaller everyday things that we do. Not taking care of ourselves, not getting enough rest. That's a big one. And our bodies react to that. Our minds try to push past it. But it usually, that's one that you see, that's one that will definitely bring up a physical illness if we don't stop and listen to our bodies. If we're not getting enough rest, that can definitely have physical repercussions.
Agreed.
What other ones can you think about?
Well, I think about those foundational things like not not eating enough,
Mm-hmm.
eating too much, tired.
Eating the wrong kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So many times when we're not connected to our bodies, we have these cravings for things that aren't going to they aren't going to serve us.
I want to share. So this past weekend, No BS had a self-sabotage weekend, right?
Mhm.
It was a huge, I don't want to say huge, but in COVID terms, this was a huge retreat. There were over 100
Oh,
women
yeah.
there. And I was, at the right place at the right time to help a member work through a story she had been carrying around for years. And she had been a professional teacher and had not told her family. And like this, I'm talking like 10, 15 years of holding on to this story. And it was like a lie and a truth. Like she wasn't living her truth
Yeah.
and holding back. But you'd said something that triggered this story in my brain because, she said that she, by not speaking her truth
Mhm.
and being in alignment with herself, that she was seeking something to create that full feeling
Yes.
that she desired. And it was not food, but it was in fact living her truth that would create the fullness, because she was in denial. She was not owning her whole story. She was holding back and not living into her best life,
Yeah.
lying to herself. But
Yeah.
it was a beautiful thing. I'm gonna tell you, it was a beautiful thing for her to witness that.
I that is one of the things that I am just really working on now because I think I am pretty good at living my truth now. I've had some self-destructive behaviors
Of
along the
course,
way to
we're
get there,
human.
and it's still a journey, but I think that's why I'm so interested in it because we are so good. We think we're so good at deceiving ourselves, those
Yeah,
around us. We
yeah.
push these things down. We don't call them what they are,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
then they blow up in our faces.
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, that's a pretty big,
That is.
that creates that again in a similar fashion, that disconnect between the mind and the body,
Yes.
because it's holding on to that lie and a truth,
Yeah.
and not connected in the story, because the brain is like, it doesn't know what to feel, doesn't know
Mhm.
what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, when I was, in counseling, um, a couple of years after my divorce, and well, a couple of years after my separation, we were actually going through the divorce process, but the marriage had ended, and I was starting to think about, what new relationships would look like, because I went into my first marriage, um, for all the wrong reasons. Like, I did not have a lot of self-awareness.
Mm,
And I remember, my counselor saying, "You need to create a checklist of all the things that are important to you in a relationship.
mm.
What do you want in another person?" And I was like, "What?
Yeah.
I get to choose?" I thought, if somebody liked you and wanted to be with you, then you were just like, "Okay," and you figure out how to make it work. And, I laugh at that, but I had never stopped to take that part of me apart. What do I need? And it was fun to, sit down and think about, well, what do I want in the perfect partner?
Mm.
And, I found that list, the other day. It was in an old computer file, and I brought it up, and it's funny, but, my husband pretty much he doesn't check off every box, but he checks off the majority of them.
Nice.
And it it's just, it's interesting how we deny our truths and we think it's going to be okay.
Not.
And it's not. No,
Mm-mm.
no.
Mhm. I wanted to give a shout out to one book. Sorry, as you were saying that, because what I hear is values, right?
Yes.
That what you value matters.
Yes.
And so Dr. Judy Ho, I'll give a shout out to her. Stop Self-Sabotage. This book, I have listened to the audio, and I went down the YouTube channels, and I have listened and watched most of her videos about self-sabotage. And she has information on her website where you can go through and do some checklisting and figure out your type. And she has a value card system you can print out. She suggests playing solitaire with yourself and figuring out your values. And again, so that's Dr. Judy Ho, Ho. Follow her on Instagram too. She's just so generous with so much information. And she's like, y'all, she plays the piano, she sings, she's got like 3 PhDs in all kinds of things. And she used to be on one of those crime shows. She was the forensic psychologist that like talked about the people who, what the profile of who would be the murderer. And she's on the show, The Doctors. She's beautiful. She's an Asian woman. Very, very attractive and so smart. So
values are the key. I think that's, whether we call it living in integrity with ourselves, it all comes down to what are our values. And they all, Brene Brown talks about values a lot. We've talked about that here before. But yeah, figuring out what are my values. That's what I was doing when I was creating the checklist. And we can do it for our relationships. We can do it for friendships. We can do it for our careers. But we need to be figuring out, we can do it, raising our children.
For sure, 100%.
And we've got to know those things. And maybe that seems obvious to people, but I think
it's intentional.
It is.
Right? We get to be intentional, which just comes full circle to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Purposeful living, being present with yourself, living your truth.
I think many times people think that their values have to be what everybody in, we have cultural values.
Sure.
We have familial values. And I think many times we think that we have to attach ourselves to whatever our in-group's values are. Maybe we need to examine our values and make sure we're in the right in-group.
Well, maybe we should do that for personal homework, and our next our next podcast could be on values. I'm going to print out, like, again, she just had so many free resources on her website that why not use them? I don't know where else to find things like that, value cards. We just do that.
So, dear listeners, you're getting some homework, and so are we.
Yes, call to action right there.
Let's start making a list of what your values are. Whether it's relationship values, whether it's career values, whether it's just your daily living. What is your purpose? Figuring out what is your purpose. And then we can talk about those values, but if you aren't living into those, then you are probably experiencing some counterproductive behaviors, some self-sabotage.
So on her website, I'm just going to get, again, we can all go there and come back. She has a quiz on self-sabotage. She has self-sabotage activity downloads, and that's where you will find the values cards.
Awesome. All right.
drjudyho.com.
And then we'll come back next week and we'll talk about some values.
Let's do it.
All right.
I love that.
Anything else?
Oh, let's get it done today, Sonya. Let's do it.
Check in. Do not forget to check in with your body during the day. And anytime, you can be walking down the hallway, you can be driving your car, you can be whatever.
I know I go off on random tangents, but every time you say that, because this is pertinent to my life right now. How we get the lesson from our gynecologist to do our Kegels at the stoplights. That's what we
Yeah.
check in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do your emotional kegels, if you will. Check in with yourself at the stoplight, or set a timer on your phone for
Yeah.
every hour. Check in. What am I thinking? What am I feeling right now? Is this how I want to be thinking and feeling?
Because you get to decide, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste another minute not making those decisions.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I am Sonya Green from SonyaGreenCoaching.com if you are looking for your own personal coach. And you are?
And I am, hold on one second.
Did you forget?
I am Judith Fender, but hold on. We got a new, I got a new,
Well,
oh yeah. Well, anyway, I'm with the No BS weight loss program, and we have a free, I'll have that together next week. That's my personal call to action. I can't keep up with the call lines right now, or the
if you look up No BS or
yeah,
losing 100 pounds with Corinne, you can get to that free course. And it is great. It is awesome.
yes.
And we would ask that if you don't mind, if you love listening to the Coach's Cup every week, go to iTunes or Google Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We are building up those reviews. Our listeners are growing. We see the numbers. We see you downloading our podcasts every week. But give us a review, and that'll bump us up in the listening so that other people can find us as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when you're checking in, check in with us and give us a review while you're thinking about it. All right. Well, we'll be back next week and we're going to talk about some values.
Right. For sure.
All right. See you then.